Well, I figure that's about. Oh, Jesus, where am I at? Why am I here? Where am I going? Where am I at? I think now is about as good a time as any to get this shit started. I already have one impatient viewer in my stream. Jinx, you need to chill out. You, you see all that energy you pushing. You need to take it down a notch. Take it down a few notches, okay? We're good. I promise. We're fine. We're it'll be okay. Now, we need to address something. I have not been doing my reaction videos like I should be doing. It is my fault. I usually make the live streams about some form of video game or some kind of shit that I'm doing. I like I'll do a video reaction, but mainly the main course is usually the game that I choose to play for the day. Which is why I had a difficult time thinking of an idea for this one because I was like, do I want to play a game and do a video reaction because I don't really do video reactions anymore. So, I'm going to try to fix that a little bit. Every so often when I do these live streams, it's just gonna be video reactions. That's how it's got to be because I I can't just keep on doing reactions with games because then you guys lose track of whatever stories I'm trying to build. Like part of my Skyrim playthrough was on my 24-hour live stream where I got started. Cyberpunk. I also started my new God tier Netrunner go like that started on my 24 hour. Like I can't keep and I've been I put some Team 4 Star on there as well, and there was a live where I did another 2 episodes. I'm separating things out is what I'm trying to say. And at least if it's a series, I need to keep those together. So I'm going to start doing my Raven Reacts again, at least for like ongoing series. I'll have to see if I can at least if I can work those into my other playlists as well. But that is also going to take time. So, I've been teasing this all day. We are going to go through all the Mad Catz controllers ever. And whew, if you're a 90s kid, you know what Mad Catz is. You know the horror stories, the betrayal, the absolute douchebaggery of your friends saddling you with the worst piece of shit, and they knew it. They knew it. They knew it when they were giving it to you, and they did it anyway. They did it anyway. So, I want to see how many of these pieces of shit that I actually used or held in my hands as a 90s kid. I'm going to be reliving some nightmares.
Here's a name that's sure to send a chill down your spine. Madcatz. Woo! I'm getting a mighty strong feeling that more than a few of you don't know what Madcatz is. Well, I can't
For the
say I blame
horror.
you. After their height of relevance in the 2000s, they quickly fell into obscurity and were left behind by a gaming industry that was all too happy to forget about them. But I never forgot. How could I? They ruined video games, not only for me, but for countless others as well, in a deeply personal way. Now, yes, some of you
Oh.
might not know them or why.
Oh yes. Oh yes, they did. They were the absolute fucking worst gaming peripheral company in existence. If you had this on your controller, not only did they look super fucking weird every fucking time, they felt wrong. They felt wrong. And if you've ever used a Mad Catz controller or a third-party controller of any kind, you know what I'm talking about. They just are not right. There is a certain feel that comes with an Xbox controller. There's a certain feel that comes with a PlayStation controller. There's a certain feel with a Nintendo controller, mouse, keyboard, so on and so forth. Mad Catz had its own feel, and its feel was cheap garbage plastic and the worst handling grip that you have ever seen in your life. Let's I got I gotta let it play. I gotta drop the grudge. match that I have with these fucking people. Cause, oof.
My hatred for them burns brighter than a pizza oven on the surface of the.
By the way, I do have my poggers, as always, right next to me. Poggers, use code Raven12, get 10% off. I'm gonna plug that until the end of my channel's career.
Sun. But soon, you will. Today, we set out on a kaleidoscopic adventure spanning a sea of systems decades deep. A journey no explorer in their right mind should commence. A quest to track down and purchase every possible Madcatz controller we can. And by the end of this, I promise you, you're gonna discover why we all feared the Madcatz.
Yep. By the way, I think I'm actually am subscribed to this dude. His name is Rerez. Yeah, I'm already subscribed to him. He's pretty awesome. He makes really good videos. He's pretty funny. And he does a bunch of retro stuff. So, if retro consoles and games and worst ever systems is something that you're into, this will be the series for you because he does a series of the worst games, worst consoles. I think he even did a Soldier Boy extravaganza, which I might actually do next time. We'll see. But let's get through this Mad Cats episode because this is horrible. It's horrid.
Madcatz was a third-party video game peripheral company that supplied gamers in the 90s and 2000s with controllers and also with peripherals like this.
I've had
Seems
that
pretty
one.
harmless.
I did have that controller. I've held that, and it's so small feeling. Like you could see that it would just feel wrong, especially back in the day when the controllers were not all that big. Like a DualSense now, I'm looking at it on my desk. It's a roughly that size, maybe a little. It is a little bit smaller, but roughly that. But Jesus Christ, those thumbsticks. Whew.
Right? No, not harmless. Far from it. They were a ferocious feline crouching in wait, biding time to silently strike video game retail jungles across the country. Allow me to paint a picture for you. It's 1997. Your friend calls you up on your family's landline phone and says,
"You have to come over right now. My mom just let me rent Mario Kart 64 from Blockbuster."
You hang up the phone and rush out the door, excited to get in on some
Hold on.
head-to-head card.
You guys don't know, probably. Well, most of my audience is 25 to 34, so maybe you guys do know or remember Blockbuster. But if you're younger, then if you were born in the Gen Z era or Gen Alpha or Y, you're likely not going to remember what Blockbuster was, but it was basically Netflix before it was Netflix. Uh, yeah, and before that, it was Redbox. So, went Blockbuster, Redbox, Netflix. So, yeah, now streaming services have basically killed these places off, like outright. There are still a few Redbox places that are still out there, but they are owned by the stores themselves, and they usually sell movies that are already out, or let you rent ones that are already out.
Ring action. Your friend welcomes you into their home and guides you to the hallowed sanctuary of the family room television. Powered on,
The biggest TV in the house, by the way. If you were a kid like me, there was one big TV in the house. If you were lucky enough, you had a TV in your room that was a little piece of shit. Like I had. Mine had a VCR in it. Mine was lucky. Because I still had VHSs. But anyway, the big TV is always in the fucking living room. And you want to use that TV, but you can only use it if your parents are done using it or done watching the news. So this was a hallowed sanctuary, just like he said. And the TV was our idol that we worshipped. I can't explain to you how much I reminisce and love and long for that time again. Jesus, I'm going down memory lane, guys. You're just gonna have to hang with me on this.
Warm, radiant glow of a CRT illuminates the den. Your friend inserts the game in the console and flicks the power switch. They pick up their trusty controller, the one bundled with the console. But
The
then,
good one.
your friend turns to you and speaks these exact words.
You can play with this controller.
You get into the game, but something is amiss. Attempting as best you can to provide some challenge to your companion, but it's futile. They kick your butt from block fort to skyscraper. They claim victory. Again and again. Any game, any genre, any stage, it didn't matter. You were powerless. You soon realize it wasn't you who was failing. It was
You didn't get worse at the game. You could be like fucking absolute amazing at the game, but you will play like dog shit with this controller.
that cursed controller they saddled you with. It was staring at you up from your trembling.
I see you, Util. I see you, Util. Giving me that Madcatz bullshit. You always hog that name brand controller. When you came over to my house to play the Wii, I gave you the actual Wii controller. In fact, when people came over to my house, I would be the first one to use the suck ass controller, because we did have some suck ass controllers, because I was a broke boy. So we got what we got. And sometimes we did get a good controller. But sometimes we got the Mad Cats, and I would take that burden upon myself, which is why I have so much experience with these asinine creations.
Hands. That logo. The Mad Cat slash of doom. Oh, did you think that was fiction? That kid visiting their friend? That was me! I didn't have a Nintendo 64 as a child. This low-rate controller handoff was a recurring reality I had to endure, and it always seemed to be Mad Catz. Always! Personally, I didn't have experience with the brand before these haunting gaming sessions, but let me tell ya, I sure as heck learned to hate them mighty quick. This was common all over, not just for me. First players never had problems playing. They used a controller ordained by Nintendo as the righteous choice. Second players across the world, though, got sat with revolting contraptions, gamepads that taught us to despise this scarlet scratch. Some of you watching may think I'm being a tad overdramatic. And to you I say, I don't think I'm being dramatic enough. How can I convey just how hateful it was to use these specific gaming products? I figure
They were garbage. Let me just sum it up for you right now. They are garbage. They are hot garbage. They're no. You could not pay me enough to use one of these things again. I will never connect any of the. Not only does this company, I think it doesn't exist anymore. Thank God, we're happy to be rid of these assholes. They it's not like their shit was expensive. I mean, but you basically got what you paid for. But in a way, it seemed like they were lying. I'm just gonna let him continue.
the only way is to show firsthand how inferior Mad Cat's quality was, controller after controller. And that's the journey I'm taking you on today. You will see for yourselves how Mad Cat's got their tainted reputation. And I will hopefully hold on to my mental faculties as I play more Mad Cat's controllers in a row than probably anyone else on the whole planet. Can't believe we bought Mad Cat's controllers. I seriously can't. As I prepare myself to run this gauntlet,
Please subscribe to this man for putting himself through the mental torment that is the Mad Cat's lineup of shit controllers and peripherals.
let's talk a little bit more about third-party controllers. Mad Catz weren't the only company on the block hawking off-brand gaming gear, but they were the name that every kid knew. Mad Catz was everywhere. And folks, I mean everywhere. I've had friends tell me you could find their stuff in grocery stores. Grocery stores,
Really?
people!
Yes.
Likely next to the kitty litter. Mad Catz
Where it
had
belongs.
infested the gaming market. Retailers sold their products and people willingly scooped them up. But Why? Why the heck were people buying Madcatz? Well, it's all about the third-party video game accessory market. Pretty much since the rise of the home game console, there have been companies whose entire business model was to make additional controllers and accessories for other companies' game platforms. Like this, the QuickShot Chimera 2, a
Yeah, but these things were like actually viable. They were good. That's all I had as Jinx is like, that's all I had as a kid. They were the cheapest my mom could get. Same. Oh my god, the little bit of allowance money I was actually able to get that went to gaming stuff. I had to buy I had to cheap out somewhere, and I definitely wasn't cheaping out on the game. So I cheaped out on the controller, and I figured out what getting what you paid for meant, like in real form. But these things, like the quick shot, these were good. Like not all the like the third party gaming companies that make controllers like this, not all of them were bad. Some of them were really, really good. It's just Mad Catz was just uniquely bad at every fucking thing they did, and I don't know why. They were in the game for so fucking long and got so much wrong. They hit it's like you're supposed to learn from every mistake you make, and every mistake is an opportunity to like do better. They clicked every wrong option in the slider menu, and then they didn't ever change it. It
controller that featured thumbsticks for the
Keep going.
NES, an input method totally different from what came bundled with the console. And it works. The joystick offered the player more precision than a standard NES D-pad. Or how about the Hori Mini Pad for the Nintendo 64? A personal favorite of mine. A completely redone design for the original.
Like I had the Hori mini pad, and it was good. It was really good. A little small for me but it gave me that form factor that I actually liked, because I didn't ever like the three handle controller because I couldn't figure out how I wanted to hold it. It ended up being I liked to use the D-pad when I was a kid, and now I like the analog stick because it gives me precision. But yeah, the Hori mini pad does that already, and the directional pad is just an afterthought, which is a good thing for your controller if you like the analog. But yeah, I've used this controller. It was really good.
Original Nintendo 64 that for many gamers improved ergonomics, comfort, and usability. Or this, the Power Pad Tilt by Champ. A player could activate button presses with motion. Sure, it tries to replace simple D-pad inputs with tilt, doesn't work very well, but it's definitely different. Okay, yeah, obviously not every third-party controller was a winner. Some were fun to use, and some were shallow gimmicks, and some made you want to throw your controller right through the wall. But when they worked, they couldn't.
By the way, I like that I put that in my description, and he said something about that, because I said the only thing that these things could control is how hard I chucked them at the wall, because that is what you wanted to do. They came with the eye candy brand. They were just as bad. Yes, they fucking were. It's like cheap earbuds, like kids' percussion instruments. It's bleh. Ugh. All top end, no bass, no mids. Ugh. Mm. These things were just the worst, and they felt like the cheapest fucking plastic too.
Enrich the gaming experience beyond what originally came with the system. At least, that's how I remember it. The folks I knew that had these quirky devices didn't think all that negatively about them. Your gameplay prowess might vary using them, but hey, they were trying something different. It was fine. So when they first...
Yeah, but the thing about these controller brands is that when they tried the gimmicks and they didn't work, they usually had better items that actually did work perfectly fine. Mad Catz didn't have any of that. It's like they tried everything and failed at everything. It's so bad. They didn't learn a damn thing.
Appeared on store shelves, there was no reason to look at a Mad Catz controller any differently than another product.
I'm actually crashing out about a fucking controller brand that's defunct. Ugh. I'm having a visceral reaction to this. I need to let it go through.
They hadn't scared up a reputation yet. How they kept selling over the years? Well, we'll get into that in good time. But first, we need to see what Madcat's quality was like near the beginning. And that brings us to our very first controller. Many believe Madcatz first pounced onto the scene during the Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and Saturn era. But that's wrong, because they had unleashed products for the SNES and Genesis, like this right here. The Madcatz
Okay, when I said they did everything wrong,
Control.
everything except this. This was their one good controller. They never repeated the success. They never repeated the success of this controller. What is going on? Oh, okay. I thought something was going wrong on my stream. It's fine.
Pad, featuring what I assume to be Madcat's original logo, and arguably their most interesting logo design. He's one cool looking cat.
That's one mad fine compliment.
At first glance, it looks like nothing special, just a knockoff Genesis gamepad. I expected this to play pretty terribly.
Oh no. Oh no, this controller, I wish I knew what happened between them making this and making the rest of the shit that they made, because this was actually a very, very good controller. I used this one. I actually did. I didn't know what a treasure I had until I tried the others.
If it worked at all. But here's the kicker, folks. This thing is solid. I know, I just railed on the company earlier for bad quality products, but I'd be lying to you if I wasn't at least fair about this.
Yeah.
It's well built, and despite it being the oldest controller we're going to be looking at today, it feels like a real Genesis controller.
And that's what I said. This is the oldest one. What happened to their company between when they made this and after that? Did it change ownership? Did they stop giving a fuck? Because this was a good controller.
The Shield-style D-pad is responsive, as are the face buttons, which I was not expecting. Oh, I know, an unbelievable concept. Madcatz, a company synonymous with terrible products, made quality gear at one point. But I tell you non-believers, this here is good. Very, very good. It's also not just a typical Genesis controller. Like many of the third-party controller makers at the time, they tried
You could use it for multiple different systems. Like this thing was versatile.
to set themselves apart from first-party hardware. And to do that, they made use of the ultimate ability 90s gamers craved.
Oh yeah, turbo
features.
Turbo as well. Ooh. Yeah. Turbo functionality. I was going to say making their controllers work with just about everything at all times, and they did do that too, so they had to make less but worked for more.
These switches at the top, flip them, and bam, rapid fire mode. And that's not all they can do. Set the switch higher to auto, and the controller can make constant button inputs without you touching anything at all.
That's a
Cruise
cheap
control for your
controller.
inputs on the Genesis. What is this? The future?
Yes.
If that wasn't enough, they also included slow motion mode. Yeah, you heard me right. It's simulated by auto rapid firing the start button. You can see it in action here with Sonic the Hedgehog 3's intro. Sonic 3 has a clean pause screen, so it sorta, maybe, kinda looks like slow motion a little. It feels more like the game is stuttering if you ask me, but this might have been helpful to get around the super tricky parts in the game, if your game paused using the start button, that is. Here's something fun. In Sonic 3, if you crouch while turning on the auto rapid fire switch, Sonic will spin dash faster than I've ever heard in my entire life.
You gotta go fast!
I'm
Damn.
shocked that one of their
have-
first control
I have never gotten Sonic to go that fast. Like, what happened? What happened? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What is going on? Why does it say it's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth? That's weird. I should be doing fine. Huh. Maybe it'll clear up here in a bit. But yeah, no, I've never actually gotten Sonic to go that fucking fast before in my life. That's wild. What is going on over here? Oh well. Gonna continue this.
Wasn't bad, so I guess they didn't start out of the gate by wasting our money. But this was only the beginning, because most gamers, they don't think of this fun little Genesis gamepad when they hear Madcatz. No. Our scars are from the generation after that, the rise of 3D gaming. The market shifted at this time in a very specific way, which gave Madcatz the foothold they needed to prey on unsuspecting gamers everywhere. The SNES and NES originally came ready for multiplayer action. It wasn't impossible to find two controllers bundled with a console when you bought it. The following console generation, though, stopped that. An industry-wide trend spread. The Nintendo 64, the Sony PlayStation.
Wait, what? You found a button? I found a button. Whee! What button did you find? What do you mean? What do you mean? Should I be worried that you found a button? What button did you find? The fuck do you mean? We. Oh shit. Ah, Jinx, you're gonna be the end of me, I swear.
And the Sega Saturn. If you wanted any of these super advanced consoles, you were getting one gamepad
One
at
controller.
launch. One. Sure, there would be occasional special bundles like the N64 Atomic Purple bundle that came with an extra controller, but those were exceptions
specials.
and introduced much later on. The aftermath of this was a higher number of gamers seeking out extra controller options than in the past, many of which were accustomed to having two gamepads. Thus, the massive rise of third-party controllers began. They were a side effect of systems not having
Hey, I'm gonna say this right now. Sex sells.
multiple bundled controllers for players. You can blame the first party for this one, folks. They caused this unfortunate chain reaction.
Man, the fucking 90s and 2000s were the fucking wild, wild west of advertisements. I swear to God. They said sex sells. Yes. Even this stuff that is marketed to children now, that would never fly in today's day and age. No. There's far too many fucking weirdos and disgusting people. But we're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about horrible controllers and my fight with those demons.
I've dreaded this moment since we started this video, but here we go. This is an original, unmodified, mint condition, according to its eBay listing, Nintendo 64 Madcatz controller, a plastic monstrosity that haunted my childhood. The biggest difference between this and an original Nintendo controller, Madcatz changed the direction of the expansion slot. It's supposed to point down from the back of the controller. They decided to have it sticking out of the top for some reason. It just gets in the way of the controller cord when you plug stuff in. I really
Sorry guys, I'm fucking around with the bit rate. It says I would need to change it. I will change it later. It's like it says it's too high. So I need to change it later.
don't know what they were thinking. I'm sure
Going
you're all
through right
looking
now.
at this and intensely wondering, how broken is that thumbstick gonna be? Well, let's find out. We're gonna play an imported Japanese Nintendo 64 game that was
I do have to say though, the Nintendo 64 controller, while I did like it as I got older, and I did like that thumbstick a lot more, I noticed how quickly that shit wore out, and I wish I had known that they sold those things on eBay. Oh no. Okay. Okay, anyway. Um I wish I had known that going in because I would have the extra handle in the middle was horrible. Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Okay, hold on guys. Let me click play on this and let me figure out what YouTube wants.
never released for the North American Nintendo 64, Irritating Electric Stick. This game completely relies on the quality of the analog stick your controller is armed with. You gotta pull through an electrified maze under a set time limit, rushing down paths while slowly cutting around corners? You need precision to make this work. Any issue with the analog stick here will be highlighted tenfold. I'm pitting the Madcatz up against an original Nintendo 64 controller, both unmodified and both loosened over years of use. They're close to parity in age, but have roughly the same flaws. To my surprise, the
Sorry guys, my thing is recommending a much lower bitrate than what I'm running. Even though YouTube should be able to run 1200 kilobytes or 12,000 kilobytes, they should be fine with that, but it's recommending 6800 and I don't know why. So I will have to change that later. I don't have time to do that now. I don't even know if it'll fuck with the recording.
analog stick wasn't a complete fail. It's worse than a real controller, don't get me wrong, you just might not notice it unless you compare them back to back like I did. It was important to equip both controllers with a rumble pack since the violent shake of your controller every time you touch the side of the course and fail is instrumental in the tension this game generates in the player. Not a problem on any official Nintendo 64 controller. The Madcatz though? I quickly discovered that this gamepad doesn't.
Okay, so a little bit of lore about me. I was lucky enough to have never had to use this fucking horseshit controller. I always had the good one. I always had the Nintendo sanctioned ones. I actually had the special Donkey Kong Banana Yellow edition. So, well, it didn't have the banana like designs on it, but it was the yellow controller. Maybe it was from something else, but it was a yellow controller, and it was the Nintendo official. I don't know. Maybe that's some lore that you guys will know now.
Work with the rumble pack. This was really stupid. It's probably incompatible with other accessories as well. This is apparently a known problem. The only remedy you'd have is to buy the advanced gamepad they released a year later to get rumble support. Doesn't help you if you bought this craptastic one. Madcatz might have cheaped out on their expansion port or something, but I really don't know. See this? This is why you're trash. You might think aside from the expansion slot issues, it wasn't all that terrible, but no. There are reasons this bad boy stuck with me all these years. The Z trigger on the back, wobbly and spongy. This might be from age, but the official controller of the same vintage doesn't have this problem.
Is that pitting in the plastic? That's just poor molding. That's actually like somebody poorly molded this.
Pushing the shoulder button on the far edges, responsive. However, if you move closer to the center of the controller for each button, they don't move. This is a build problem, not aging hardware. They were built to hinge on corner presses instead of an entire button push. Guess they didn't care. Even the D-pad, which is iconic for Nintendo controllers, was turned into a shield-style design that is both squishy and squeaky at the same time. But most offensive of all, the A and B buttons. Crazy unresponsive. Check out my run in Mario Kart 64 here. You can see me push the button to accelerate, but Mario doesn't move an inch. You've got to really push down hard to get the kart to move. It's about as close to unusable as a face button could get. Oh, it also has the slow-mo and turbo functions like the Genesis gamepad, but the buttons are already so terrible, I really don't care about any extra functions this useless controller may have. Now sure, Nintendo 64 controllers, they're older now. Even Nintendo's first-party releases have their own special problems, especially a well-used analog stick. But
Oh yeah, those things wear out so bad. And it was mainly due to how they were built. Um be it was a product of the time, and they were good for the time, but they did wear out quickly, especially if you were really heavy into gaming, which if you were a child, which normally were the players of these games, you would have a lot of free time to do so. So these probably wore out quicker than intended. I don't think they're doing much better now with stick drift. with their new Nintendo Switch 2.
I'm not comparing this controller against a brand new one or even a refurbished and cleaned up model. This here is a well-loved, long-used Nintendo 64 controller. It's from the same era and has probably seen more action over the years compared to this Madcatz one. The difference here is all down to build quality. Madcatz showed their hand with this controller.
What
A
quality?
glimpse into their quality standards. It was the warning shot to gamers everywhere. A message that was loud and clear to anyone who dared play their devices. Madcatz makes mad trash. Just imagine when this thing was new.
Trash.
You brought it home and it got busted after a few plays, if it even worked to begin with. Then, after the Rumble Pack comes out, you discover
We wouldn't be losing anything of value. Trust me, we would survive.
it doesn't work with it. You couldn't bring it back to the store for a refund. They had your money and you had a useless controller. Sounds like a
Yep.
scam, doesn't it?
It's not a scam. Now you get to buy another Madcatz controller. That's 2 controllers for the price of 2.
The company wasn't just making their own cheaper variations of stock console controllers, they were also making specialty gear for simulation racer fans. This is a Madcatz steering wheel for the Nintendo 64. It's got an analog wheel, built-in rumble, and a set of analog pedals for acceleration and brake. I saw this advertised in gaming magazines back in the day. It featured 2 guys stealing a steering wheel straight from a race car during an active competition. The message here? They were dirty thieves! Or probably they were making quality steering wheels that were at least as good as the real thing.
Oh, wait, is that the
Yeah,
controller?
well, past experiences make me believe that this will be very unlikely, but let's give this thing a whirl anyway. Regardless of what I played, I found that the
I think I had this one. I think I have used this one. Or something similar that was also Mad Catz. I did have a Mad Catz steering wheel, I know that. It was a steering wheel and gas. Uh, um, it was a steering wheel and pedal combo. And that's what that little cord slot is for. It's for your pedal controllers, if you had them. That's why there's also buttons on the steering wheel, just in case you don't have those. The main thing is the steering wheel, being able to turn the car.
wheel fails half the time. Sometimes it would break down on the same game the second or third time I played it. If it did happen to work, mid-race, it would lose connection. I don't think I've really seen a disconnect warning with a properly plugged in wired controller before. So I thought the connection cable might be damaged, but even when I didn't touch anything, you'd still see the warning randomly turn off and on. It's like it's got a
Why is it throwing up all these errors? Keyframes are not being sent often. Why are you telling me all of this now? It's like giving me bitrate issues. It usually doesn't throw up all these problems. I don't know why it is now. Also, I don't know why I wasn't on full quality.
poor wireless connection despite it being wired. For brief moments, I did get some titles to work with the analog steering, but in other instances, it seemed to function more like a D-pad. It took sharp turns like
Hold on. Especially the see-through consoles. No, no. Listen, Jinx, I don't think you're remembering these correctly, and you should. You're older than me. You should remember that the see-through consoles were the special editions of the consoles. So, it was kind of good. The see-through consoles were. And also the see-through controllers were also bundled with the see-through consoles. So they were actually a good thing. They were specials that the companies themselves released. Well, you said that the extra handle in the middle was horrible, and then you said especially the see-through consoles. Maybe clarify. I maybe I'm missing something. Anyway, I was trying to stall for time. Oh, okay.
left and right instantly, and sometimes the controls would lock up in one specific direction. And the issues aren't only with steering. So many aspects of this controller are shoddily built. This little stick shift isn't a stick shift, it's just a pull with C buttons on it. The stick itself
And I bet whichever direction you're going is the C button it presses.
is very wobbly. Age? Bad build? Your guess is as good as mine. The controller plug doesn't sit flush against the port on the console
that would
like
annoy
other
me.
controllers. It's also insanely hard to properly insert. It seems to get jammed once you plug it up, making it so hard to pull out that I'm afraid I might damage my Nintendo 64. This is an original build quality issue. These ports didn't get bigger or smaller with age. The buttons are
Also, if it's having problems coming out, it probably also had problems going in. Like, why was it that hard to pull out? That's really bad.
squishy and the D-pad pops right in all at once without a central pivot point, which is always a sign of a lack of care. This is totally not the quality that magazine ad was bragging about. The only thing these two thieves were stealing was my money from buying this thing. Folks, I gave this sad Wheel of Doom way too many chances, and it failed on all fronts. The moment I gave up and threw in the towel was when the built-in vibration motor seemed to malfunction and get stuck on earthquake mode. Just sat there, vibrating, without end. This is an incredibly unreliable product.
I had the full setup for 007 on PS1 with pedals and stick shifter. Wait, which 007? It can't be The World Is Not Enough, because that's the one I played on Nintendo 64. You played that bitch with a steering wheel? You were down bad worse than me. I would not play a game that didn't need a steering wheel with a steering wheel. Well, yeah, no. You would have probably had a worse time with the Madcatz one. I'm impressed enough that you played 007 with a steering wheel all the way through. That's a new type of skill, man. One I do not want to have.
Oh boy.
It just broke.
Well, so far, Madcat's Nintendo 64 devices have lived up to their legacy. Poor quality designs with components that
It just said 007. Oh. I'm not sure which one then.
do not hold up over time. But they weren't only making inferior N64 products. I found one other relic from this generation, this time for the PlayStation. I couldn't find any regular Madcatz controllers for the console, but this looks like it's going to be even better. This here is the Madcatz Phaser arcade-style light gun.
That looks like something from Star Trek. That really actually does.
That's the official name, Phaser. You know, like from Star Trek.
Oh.
This one, to my eye, specifically looks like the Type 2 hand phaser used in the first Star Trek movie from 1979. Not that I knew any of that off the cuff or anything.
No.
This was originally
course
sold
not.
with two different controller port adapters, one for the original PlayStation and the other for the Sega Saturn. When I found this, it only came with a PlayStation adapter. I imagine this doubled up on the value of your purchase if you could use it for either system, if you even happened to have both back then. But it also doubled up on Madcat's profits. One SKU, two console markets. Yeah, I'm thinking that's why they did that. The moment I grabbed this,
Yeah.
I was
Like I said, if they're going to try to make it for one, they'll try to make it work for all to maximize the profit without having to create a whole nother product. And Madcatz was the worst for this. Like, they were just making cheap shit.
excited to zap my way through one of my all-time favorite light gun games, Point Blank, an absolute arcade classic. I played first with my real Namco gun con, you know, for science. Plays like a dream. Then I switched over to the Madcatz Phaser.
It doesn't
It
work at
didn't
all.
work. This is when I learned something really fun about the Madcatz phaser. It's a standard light gun controller compared to Namco's synchronized light gun controller. Each game has to be specifically programmed to work with each style of light gun. Some titles support both, some do not. Most important to me was the fact that my favorite light gun games, like all the ones that were made by Namco, do not work with the Madcatz phaser at all. But lucky for me, I have a copy of Die Hard Trilogy 2 Viva Las Vegas, which happens to support both controllers.
My cat is just sitting at the door. Let me go let him out.
So how did they compare in a shootout? Well, the GunCon won on every front. Aiming was better and way more accurate. And for some reason, anytime I fired with the phaser, the screen wobbled. That did not happen with the GunCon. Probably just a standard light gun effect, I guess, so maybe I can't blame Madcatz for that. What I can flag them for is the controller's abhorrent design. It's fine for the world of Star Trek, but not for real-world gaming. They put the buttons in a position that has no spot to rest your hand, so there's no comfortable way to use them. Now, you could hold it like this, and then maybe here and touch the first two buttons on either side, but when you want to get at the start button, you kinda have to use your middle finger. This sucks! Compare that to the GunCon's smart placement of buttons on the barrel, and it's obvious to see how the phaser is so much worse.
It was crazy hard. We had an old school desk for the wheel, piece of wood attached to the bottom of the desk for the pedals, and zip tied the little table for the shifter. The only boyfriend of hers I miss. Everything was bolted down so nothing shifted during gaming. That's actually pretty fucking cool. And I just realized that I was muted before. He doesn't need to overact any of this. This is just a bad console. But that dude does sound awesome. Like he built you an entire fucking gaming setup. That's cool. Man, I wish I had a dad that did shit with me.
I did it! Need a standard light gun? Look for a different model. Something that looks less like Captain Kirk has it strapped to his pants. We're a few controllers deep into our Madcatz extravaganza, and some of you may be thinking, well, this may have been your experience, Shane, but I never bought a Madcatz controller. I knew better than that. I was a serious gamer. For some, that could very well be true, but I'm betting a whole bunch of you bought Madcatz and did not even know it. How is this possible? Madcatz would supply companies with controllers for them to slap their own branding on, hiding in plain sight. Remember that Sega Genesis controller we had a look at early on? Well, Toys R Us rebranded it with the name High Frequency. That's right. These two controllers are identical. They're both Madcatz. Did I really need to buy two ancient duplicate controllers just to prove this point?
Probably not.
No, but I did.
I was a serious gamer.
Toys R Us used the exact same name to sell Madcatz Nintendo 64 controllers as well. Check out these pictures taken inside the store from back in the year 2000. All this right here, high-frequency branded controllers. But make no mistake, these plastic imposters are secretly made by the Angry Kitten people. I can't say for sure how many other brands at the time were actually disguised Madcatz. There's no depository for this information, but I can say for sure a decade or so later, another piece of camouflage Madcatz hardware popped up. Rebranded controllers with GameStop.
Yup. I've used this fucking controller. This thing is fucking terrible.
This little wireless GameCube
and the little grips on the side, and it makes it feel like it was made for a 5-year-old to use. I was so mad getting this.
Controller might say GameStop on the front, but it's hiding a dirty secret on the back. This means that over the years, some gamers out there were actually playing on Madcatz devices all along and didn't know it. Dude, you're playing with Madcatz. All that fun N64 and PlayStation stuff, that was just an appetizer for the main course that is the 6th console generation. If you know Madcatz, this generation is probably why you know them. Their rise as a controller maker of infamy was during this time. And why? Because of the PlayStation 2. By that gen, Madcatz refined their strategy. Sell lower quality products for less than the competitors, targeting the larger population of money-conscious consumers out there. Whether you were a kid trying to stretch your allowance as far as you could, or a
Me. I just said it. As a kid, I did not get a lot of allowance money. So what I did get, I tried to stretch that shit so far, and man, I had to skimp somewhere, and it came down to the peripheral. I paid full price for a game, but skimped on the controller. It, man, it's the reason why I didn't destroy controllers for so long. I knew I wasn't getting a fucking another one.
parent who just didn't know the extra $10 made a difference, there
Oh
was
yeah, it
always
did.
someone willing to buy the cheaper off-brand thing. And the PS2's incredible sales brought in a new massive consumer base, potentially looking for affordable accessories for their new favorite console. Just like the previous generation, this one also launched with only one controller in box. Madcatz bombarded the market with different models of gamepads at this time. It meant big numbers for the company. Heck, the first full year after the PS2 hit shelves, Madcatz net sales increased by 50%. So yeah, people were buying them. And now, I'm going to look at a few of their PS2 offerings to see if things could have gotten any worse. It's probably gonna get worse.
Way worse.
Fun fact, during my Madcatz Safari hunting controllers down, PlayStation 2 gamepads were the most common Madcatz controller I came across. I found 4. Makes sense, right? Like we said, it was the dominant platform of its time. More people were likely to buy one of these knockoffs on that platform. To test all of these out, I decided to play Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. This was one of the first games I played on the PlayStation 2 that made full use of all the advanced pressure-sensitive buttons. The directional pad, the face buttons, and the triggers are all pressure-sensitive, meaning that they can register lighter
Oh yeah, I forgot that. I was so blown away between the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 controllers for the pressure sensitivity. Like that didn't even occur to me that that was something that could happen. Like before they actually fucking did it. And it's been helping with gaming for so like it's been used it's so integrated now. Like everybody uses it for everything. Even Cyberpunk, with the best example that comes to recent memory, you can do a light press or a heavy press or even a medium heavy press to control the speed of your car better. Like I can use an extremely light press, and with the adaptive trigger there's actually pressure to push back against. Like I can go super slow or I could just floor it and go super fast. But I've also got to keep myself aware because there is gear shifting that happens in the game that makes the trigger kind of go funny. I don't know. I like the adaptive triggers.
inputs as well as hard inputs, and the game behaves accordingly. You can see it here with the official PlayStation 2 controller. You can run or walk with the directional pad alone depending on how hard you push down. Looking around in first person is adjusted by pushing the L2 and R2 buttons. Press a little, move a little, and the face buttons are much of the same. But of course, the analog thumbsticks are near essential when playing a game like MGS2, since you can sneak around by softly tilting the stick in full 300.
Wait, uh does he have aim acceleration on, or is this the time before aim acceleration was a thing? Because I hate acceleration. I turn it off anytime I see like aim acceleration or ADS acceleration. I turn it off completely because I want it to move at a constant speed. because my brain does not adjust for it starting slow and then getting faster. My brain doesn't adjust for that. Fuck off. Give me a constant speed so I got less to worry about. Also, I turn off motion blur every time. Don't know why people like motion blur. It's not fun. I like to be able to see even if I'm moving quickly. That's how I take in my environment, damn it. You will not make me.
160-degree freedom, something the D-pad alone cannot do. So clearly, this is a good game to test out these 4 controllers. Let's start off with the Madcatz official Gamepad 200 series, a fully black design.
I used that one. That's one I used. I did. This one was so bad. Like, I mean, when you got it first out of the box, it was fine. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to be real with you. It was completely fine right out of the box for me. The problem came around the 3rd or 4th playthrough that I did with this controller of whatever game. This is the 4th time I used it. I remember it because I was like, why does my analog stick not work? And I even asked my brother if he dropped it or threw it, because I know that he did sometimes get pissed off at games and had a tendency to destroy controllers. But I asked him if he had thrown it, but there was no damage on the controller. So, and of course he said no, which he didn't. It just broke for no fucking reason. Just stopped working. Like, that's how bad these were.
Design with rigid plastic ribs on the side to create the illusion of functional grip. Madcatz really seemed to think people dropped their controllers a lot. They added ribbed grips to practically everything. I didn't have to test this controller very long, as I noticed pretty much right away that it has a broken start button. Next up is the Madcatz Dual Force 2 Pro Microcon. Madcatz controllers are sometimes called the little brother controller because younger siblings typically got stuck with the off-brand controller. I can't imagine.
Yep. I can attest to that. My little brother always got the worst controllers when it was just me and him. Like I said, when guest came around, I was the one that used the suck-ass controller. But when it was just me and my brother playing, he was the one that used that bum-ass controller. He got the fucked one. I never played with the fucked one after that. Because I'll take that hit for my friends. I wouldn't take that hit for him. Nah, that little fucker could suffer. I was mean. At least when it came to gaming. I was cool all the rest of the time.
What else would have inspired them to make such tiny versions of their controllers? So I personally believe that's why they made the Microcon line, for younger players' smaller hands. This controller has a working start button. That's an improvement, but it has a broken D-pad. The left direction doesn't work. 2 down, and so far we haven't even moved Snake inside the boat in-game. Really starting to get soggy from all that rain above deck. Number 3 is the Madcatz Retrocon.
He's gonna need a bigger trash can because most of these are probably all garbage.
It clearly was designed to look more like an original Nintendo Entertainment
cool.
System controller. Why? I don't know. This design isn't all that comfortable, especially the shoulder buttons at the top. They're super squished together, and instead of them being one on top of the other, they're side by side. Now they're less intuitive to switch between and way less comfortable to use. Despite its smaller look, it has all the functions of a real PS2 controller, pressure sensitivity and rumble included, but the left thumbstick is busted. This is unplayable. It wildly jumps around when you move it in any direction, and if you leave it alone, it automatically moves down. I think you know where this is going.
Trashy.
This here is the full-size Dual Force.
I've used this one too. This one was terrible. I remember using this one and hating, and it's not because of the lack of functionality, because obviously it hadn't been used enough to have a lack of functionality, which for this company didn't always need to be the case. But yeah, no, I remember using this controller and hating the feeling of it in my hand. It felt so unbelievably cheap, and especially when I already knew what a real PlayStation controller felt like, this felt like an insult.
2 Pro, the larger model of the blue Microcom with the busted D-pad. And guess what? Every single button seems to work on here. Nope. False alarm. Thumbsticks are garbage. They are
Yep.
way too sensitive. Gingerly nudging the sticks just a little bit instantly sends exaggeratingly
It's just
heavy
a
movement
D-pad.
input, meaning the whole analog feature of these analog thumbsticks gone, making any game that requires precision input, like say aiming a weapon or sneaking around, something Metal Gear Solid is all about, well, it's insanely
Yeah.
difficult to complete.
Hey, maybe you guys should watch a couple episodes that I posted of Snake Eater. I have not gone back to that game, and honestly, I don't know if I'm going to, but yeah, I might return back to it. I don't know. It all depends on how I feel about it. Did you? I have to feel like it, okay? These things go in waves. Like I'll go months or sometimes 100 and like I was playing Schedule 1 earlier today. I've been playing that for the past couple of days. The last time I played that was like 143 days ago. Like I said, these things go in cycles.
Now, if not, impossible. Even if I looked past the busted controls and broken inputs, the pressure-sensitive features of every single one of these controllers kind of felt stiffer and harder to use than my official PlayStation 2 controller. They're basically the same age, and my PS2 controllers have seen a lot of use. I also pulled out
Yeah.
one with very loose analog sticks to give the Madcatz a bit of an unfair edge, but even then, the official controller was still far more play-friendly than anything Madcatz offered. To top it off, the Madcatz PS2 memory card I happened to
don't
pick
ever,
up.
don't ever fucking use these. Don't ever fucking use these. They will destroy your data. They don't save. They're bad.
Totally not working! The PS2 doesn't even register its existence. Just as a point of order, don't ever buy third-party memory cards for systems made during this era, folks. The risk to your game saves isn't worth it.
No.
Anything that
Just don't
says
do it.
Madcatz on it? Avoid. Which I think is becoming the lesson of this video. So that was it. Every single PlayStation 2 controller and accessory was in a broken state. Oh, that reminds me. That's where you belong. In the trash. A pile of controllers, and none of them are playable. But all of my original PlayStation 2 hardware, still working great. The difference? Those third-party gamepads were made cheaper and with nowhere near the same build quality. However, I did get a 4-port multi-tap adapter for the PlayStation 2 from Madcatz that was totally functional. The 4 controllers I got to play on it weren't. Fate. Cruel, cruel fate. The PlayStation 2 ended up becoming one of the most successful consoles ever, and when they had the attention of the most gamers out there,
yeah.
this is what they were serving them. They thought they were making a lot of sales.
I don't know why the PS2 sold so well. Maybe it was what it was like releasing with, but I always remember the PS2 being the system.
But what they were actually doing was creating a ton of enemies who would never forget. And it wasn't just gamepads they pumped out for the
I still have
PS2.
never-
When the dancing rhythm
I've still never forgiven them for the mental scarring I've had to endure due to their products.
game craze hit North America, you better believe they were all over that market as well, with dance pads like this. This one smells bad.
Ew,
Now, I've played Konami's Dance Dance Revolution series in arcades.
poorly.
And when they transitioned this stuff home, Konami made their own line of official dance pads. You've got pressure-sensitive regions that represent button inputs, combined with a long cord to play further from your console, rubberized underside to prevent it slipping around on the floor it's laying on, and a moisture-repellent plastic top that can be easily wiped for cleanliness.
And the Konami one, it just feels nicer. I remember having something like this, and I actually had the real thing, and I always remember it felt better.
This came out in the early 2000s. Despite this piece of hardware being decades old now, this dance pad is immaculate. Absolutely perfect. This helped the home release of the DDR series become a hit. So, of course, Madcatz tried to breakdance their way in. They undercut Konami's $49.99 dance pad with their own beat pad for the PlayStation 2 at $19.99. That's a savings of $30. So what does that get you? A far worse dance pad.
Oh,
Comparing
yeah.
these side by side, all the imperfections come slipping out. It's missing that rubberized underside like the first part of the device, meaning it
And you can see what kind of material this shit is made out of. Oof. Oof. Like, you saw the Konami one had kind of like a plastic covering. This is not that. This is like polyester or something, and it's bad.
can slide under you when using it. The cord to connect to your console? Way shorter. The top side isn't made of a moisture-resistant plastic. In fact, it seems to absorb moisture, which is freaking disgusting. When I attempted to clean it, it soaked up liquids like a sponge. This thing probably retained the foot sweat of all those who danced before me.
Ew.
Our DDR dance pads doubles as a PMAT for your awesome... Our Dance Revolution dance pads doubles as a PMAT for all you awesome Mad Cats out there.
I touched it.
Uh,
And in true Mad Catz fashion, it isn't as responsive to your dance steps. Glaringly terrible in comparison to the official dance pad. Maybe all that gunked up foot sweat damaged the components inside. I actually paid more for the Mad Catz pad than I did for the very good condition Konami pad. I feel like I got ripped off. No,
Yeah,
I don't
did.
feel like it. I know I got ripped off. I got ripped off buying dance pads. I don't even play DDR that well, and yet I have 2 of these things. Speaking of things I overpaid for, check out this, the Mad Catz handheld racing wheel controller. A big, clunky, awkward to hold design that is totally lifted straight from an RC car remote. A few years ago, I had reviewed this oddity because the thing just perplexed me so much. They tried to sell it by putting a quote from professional racing superstar Mario Andretti on the box.
The #1 handheld racing wheel for the PlayStation.
Sounds to me like Mr. Andretti never tried out the competitor's products, like these, Namco's Nijicon and Jogcon. Both designs are much smaller, easier to hold, and far more sophisticated.
use
They're
those.
both so much more fun to use and play games with, simulating the function of a steering wheel far more accurately and comfortably than what Mad Catz
just
created.
looks
But the cunning cat
uncomfortable.
people were not about to give up on steering wheels. For the next device, I'm gonna switch it up a bit. Up to this point, I've been evaluating old used controllers, heavily played and possibly damaged by other users, but not this
Maybe.
one. We're going to unbox a premium Mad Catz product, brand new, still wrapped in its original plastic, the Mad Catz Universal MC2 steering wheel. The abbreviation MC means Mad Catz, so that means the full title of this thing is the Mad Catz Universal Mad Catz 2 steering wheel. That's a really stupid name. Unlike the Nintendo 64 wheel we played with earlier, this is designed to work across multiple consoles, PlayStation 1, Game
Why does it look like it smells bad? Maybe I'm not making sense right now, but why does it look like it smells bad? Hold on. Had the wheel controller. Yep, I did too.
GameCube, Xbox, and most importantly to me right now, PlayStation 2. If we're gonna be testing this
Like I said, I didn't have that specific one, but I did have a Mad Catz steering wheel.
thing out, I can only think of one simulation racing game worth the attempt, Gran Turismo 4. You can use this both on a tabletop or in your lap. They even have these grooves under the steering wheel with
And it had those. It had those things where you could like set it on your legs, and those 2 side things would like close around your thighs. So like only a person of a certain size could use that.
some pop-out leg holders. Unfortunately, while I was playing this way, I found that the wheel would shake around anytime I tried to position my feet to operate the pedals. It's very restrictive, and honestly, I'm not a fan. Tabletop mode it is. Well, looky here. It's got a working gauge displaying how much pressure you're pushing on the pedals, which is a nice touch,
That's
I
cool.
guess. But I really don't know how that would be useful for any game you'd play.
Yeah,
I'd be
you're
looking
not
for my
looking at
vehicle
it.
speed, which isn't there. I know how much pressure I'm applying. I'm the one applying it. Besides, I really wouldn't be looking down at that while I'm busy
Yeah.
focusing on steering my
You gotta
car
see the
properly.
screen.
Speaking of steering, where the heck is it? I can barely manage to keep any vehicle on the road. Driving in a straight line? Next to impossible. Tight turns, wide turns, it doesn't matter. Everything felt so incredibly unresponsive. I checked the manual to see what was up, and it stated that there was some calibration feature that needed to be set. Funny, the Nintendo 64 wheel didn't need this. It just
Yeah.
worked when I plugged it in. I mean, you know, when the console registered the wheel as connected. Anyway, I fiddled around with the settings, adjusted them every possible way I could. No dice. Nothing I did made this thing work properly. To verify it was the wheel and not the game, or perhaps my own terrible skills, I drove a race with an official PlayStation 2 controller, and it worked fine. Made turns and everything. So here we are, a brand new in-box Madcatz controller, untouched by human hands, swaddled in an unbroken seal, and it doesn't work properly. Now maybe this controller has degraded in all this time
Degraded.
not being used.
I wouldn't
Components
give it-
failed, or maybe
Listen, I would not be nice like this and give it that kind of grace. If it can't, seriously, even if that box had been handled by the Incredible Hulk, it was wrapped in plastic and styrofoam, nothing would have happened that would make this controller horrible. It's just bad out of the box because Mad Catz is bad out of the box. That's just how it is.
there was some kind of manufacturing problem, or heck, this could have been damaged over the years from someone rightfully playing kickball with the box. So I checked in with reviews written 2 decades ago, back when this hunk of crap was first released. Guess what? Both a reviewer at CNET and another at GameSpot both addressed the same concerns I did, as if we were kindred spirits, separated through time, bound together by a stunningly awful steering wheel at different points in history. And I think it's worth restating that this wheel wasn't only for PlayStation. This one product also has connectors for GameCube and Xbox. They not only cut costs on build quality, but cut out focusing on making their device work well with one specific console at a time. In their brazen attempt to be the master of all, they became the master of none. In box, out of box, back on release day, or now, this has always been a terrible product. How is this company this freaking awful at making video game hardware? How?
But the saying usually is good at some, master of none. They were never good to begin with except for like the earliest days of the company.
Failure after failure thrown on the pile. You think this dissuades me? That I won't go on? You're wrong. It's fuel for the fire. We're gonna keep tracking down this wild feline in all its forms, on all its platforms. As part of the Great Hunt, we ordered a bunch of Madcatz controllers off eBay. Everything arrived in pretty perfect condition, or at least the condition they were in when the seller last had them.
I need to disappear to the bathroom real quick. I will leave this playing though.
Besides one controller, a Madcatz translucent blue original Xbox gamepad. Unfortunately, I couldn't test this one since it arrived damaged from the shipping process. The left thumbstick split in 2. This was packaged pretty safely, so I was a little confused about how this actually happened. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that the thumbsticks were cheap 100% hard plastic all the way through, unlike real Xbox controllers that feature a sort of soft rubber-like texture on the thumbsticks for better grip. For my money, I think that stuff might make it less brittle and harder to split. Would the controller have survived shipping if it had higher quality thumbsticks? Who knows? All I can say is that I won't be attempting to buy another one of these controllers again. So, we move on to the Dreamcast. This is the Madcatz Dreampad. You might notice that it has 6 face buttons to the right, 2 more than what you'd find on a typical Dreamcast controller. These buttons can be programmed in multiple ways, but the most useful in my opinion,
Hold on. I saw something. I saw a controller. This one. Yep. I've used that one too. I've used that motherfucker too. That one is just as bad as all the rest. Man, this is the one I think I've had the most interactions with was this fucker. I hated it. And the place where they put the start and the back button, look at that shit. It's right where your hands would be sitting. It's just bad build quality. Poor button placement.
Is that I won't be attempting to buy another one of these controllers again. So, we move on to the Dreamcast. This is the Madcatz Dreampad. You might notice that it has 6 face buttons to the right, 2 more than what you'd find on a typical Dreamcast controller. These buttons can be programmed in multiple ways, but the most useful in my opinion, replicating the left and right triggers as face buttons. Great for games like Street Fighter 3 Second Impact. The placement of the triggers on a regular Dreamcast controller plus their analog nature makes executing the perfect combo in many fighting games tedious, if not near impossible. So having 6 buttons right here at the front, it's a fighting gamer's obvious choice. But of course, Madcatz had to cheap out somehow. The first thing I tried to do was insert a VMU into the controller expansion slot. The slot was far too small for it. It was a struggle to insert, and when it did manage to get in there, the buttons of the VMU smacked against the top of the controller. I actually use this VMU all the time, so I didn't bother setting it into the controller completely. The chance of damaging one of these things? Not worth it.
No, thank you.
So instead, I used a memory card from another third-party company, Performance. This fits fine in my stock Dreamcast controller, but on the Madcatz Dreampad, it struggled to fit in and got jammed inside. It took a lot of force to remove this afterwards. And for anyone saying this wasn't fair, that you can't judge a third-party device using another third party's accessory, yes,
Fair,
fine, that could be true.
Fair, but it fit in the stock controller that came with the system.
So someone better explain to me why I also struggled getting the Madcatz jump pack into and out of Madcatz's own gamepad. What?
That is, you can't make an excuse. That's inexcusable. Your own fucking adapter, your own fucking, your own thing. You made it. That was you.
Is the deal with this? You made both of these things. How did you screw that up? So, once I got past all of that, I played
That's just a
Street
lack of
Fighter.
care.
Straight up, the D-pad is squishy and in a shield style which you wouldn't find on an official Dreamcast gamepad. Gotta be honest, folks, I don't like this, and I could not replicate moves easily in-game. The face buttons, though, were so close to being good, with the triggers on the back cloned with these 2 extra buttons on the front, but it's a real shame that the A button fails to register. You've got to be focused and push it in just the right way to make it work every single time. And when you're playing a heated match of any fighting game, the chance of a failed input is potentially game-breaking. So you'll just be asking yourself, do I suck at the fight? Or is it this controller?
It is.
But if you want a sure win against a human opponent, throw them this thing and you'll be kicking circles around them in no time. But we're not done with the Dreamcast yet. We've got a super special device that I've been dying to dig into. The Dreamcast had a few very good PC ports of some well-regarded first-person shooters, playable with a stock Dreamcast controller or a Dreamcast mouse and keyboard, getting as close to the PC controls as possible. But Madcatz, well, they had the idea to blend both of these control schemes together all at once. The Panther DC, a trackball-style controller with a
Oh no. I know exactly how this one's gonna work. It's not. That's horrible. Why would you do that? Like, why would you? I gotta turn my hand so. No.
a flight stick strapped to it. Aim with the trackball like a mouse, move your character with the analog joystick like a gamepad. A perfect balance of the two worlds. Only it's not, because it's mostly useless for its intended purpose. Very few games take full advantage of all of its features. So while you can play a bunch of Dreamcast games with Panther, you're not gonna have a great time. The layout will always feel bad since the majority of games on the platform were never designed around this gangly thing. Vigilante 8's Second Offense, for example, kinda.
That's the reason the controllers work so well. That's what people design around, is those controllers. So, like, obviously, the functionality is not going to be there. Like it'll be there, but in some rudimentary fashion.
Not fun to play. And likewise, the Panther fails to take advantage of important features of the Dreamcast. It only has one expansion slot, so you need to choose between using the jump pack or the VMU. And if you're playing a game that uses the VMU screen, you're out of luck. The slot is all the way at the back of this thing, so you will not be able to see it.
You might think I'm irritating, but I'm nothing compared to our controllers.
You can play plenty of titles of the Panther
yes,
DC, but to use all of its functions properly, you need games that can support Panther mode. The manual-less games like Quake 3 and Kiss Psycho Circus that work. I also found that Unreal Tournament made use of it as well, but it's not mentioned in the manual. Funny enough, the manual does mention that Half-Life could use the Panther's features, a game that never officially came out on the Dreamcast, because the console was discontinued before the game could come out. Looks like Madcatz jumped the gun on writing that one down. I popped in a game, gave it a shot, and couldn't aim properly at all. Not all the directions were registering input. Awesome. I figured this was a controller problem. I popped out the trackball and inspected the ball pit. Clean as a whistle. But I decided to give everything a wipe down anyway, hooked it all back up, and bam! It kinda, sorta worked a little better, maybe. Look, I want to give this thing the benefit of the doubt, but even when cleaned, it still seemed off. And after just a brief few minutes of play and returning to it later on for another session, the ball got back to acting up. Nothing internally looks damaged or in bad condition. This thing just seems to be off no matter what I do. It's a controller you need to constantly maintain and clean, just like an old-style ball mouse. Something I'd assume console gamers of the time were probably not expecting. With a cleaned and ready-to-go ball, I expected to have a far better time. But that didn't happen. Quake 3 needed the controls to be tweaked in the options menu. The stock layout when you boot up the game is impossible to use. Nothing makes sense. There seemed to be one option, controller setting number 4, that kinda worked the best, but it isn't listed as a Panther option, despite the Panther manual suggesting it would be. This was a nightmare. Just freaking awful. Aiming with the ball was so imprecise that I could barely land any hits. It almost felt broken. Just look at this. How am I supposed to take out anyone with aiming this borked? Anytime I shifted the ball around, it felt like it stuttered and refused to move into the directions I needed it to go. I died in the first training level. The training level of Quake 3. A game that on PC I could clear in seconds without getting fragged once.
One frag left.
I switched to Unreal Tournament, which has a Panther setting in the menu, so I had hoped that the gameplay with the Panther would be a lot better. But again, the trackball wasn't great. It has a tendency to aim up or down when swiping left or right. Fortunately, Unreal Tournament has a very strong auto-aim assist, making it a far more playable experience. It was easily better than Quake 3, but not by much. Across every game, aiming just never felt good, like it was always moving slightly in a direction you didn't want to. And folks, I've played plenty of trackball games, so no, it's not me. The button layout is criminal. There are 3 buttons at the top of the trackball, but you'll be too busy swiping the trackball around to hit them. It's also got a dual trigger system you operate with one thumb with that same hand. Even if you keep your hand still, which you will not, you can only ever use one trigger at a time. That's a step down from every major controller with shoulder buttons since the Super Nintendo. The Panther is worse than a keyboard and mouse and worse than a Dreamcast controller. Don't believe me? Well, I replayed.
It was trying to be innovative and creative, and it just failed on all fronts trying to be special.
These exact same games on the same stages with a stock controller. I didn't die once in either game, and had a way easier time actually aiming and moving around. Sega made the Dreamcast gamepad without 2 analog sticks. A bad move, some might say. But the game devs made use of what was there in a way that still felt decent to use. Aiming and movement on every game worked better than the Panther. If you happen to play against anyone who had an original Dreamcast controller, maybe a Dreamcast mouse or keyboard, well, they will always knock you out if you're running with the Panther. There is no real advantage. You play with one of these things, it's the easiest way to lose.
You're gonna have a bad time.
All of these products, these terrible, terrible controllers, got into the hands of hundreds of thousands of gamers, and they caught on fast that this mark was not to be trusted. Now, you might think, why didn't Nintendo, Sony, or Sega step in? Don't they need a license to make these things? You know, pay these companies for the right to sell gear to their consumers? Well, no. If they reverse engineered the first-party controller design and didn't use any of the company's logos on the package, they could completely bypass any licensing shenanigans, and for the most part, that's precisely what Madcatz did. Not only were they making cheap controllers, they were produced in a way that didn't replicate the first-party designs that were typically made to last a long time. I want to make it clear though, Madcatz wasn't alone in the hate for third-party controllers. There was also Interact and Hip Gear, Dream Gear, Nyko, and so very many others that I can't even begin to name them all. But
Nyko I've heard of. The other one, Interact Media Products, I think I've heard of that too.
Nyko, and so very many others that I can't even begin to name them all. But Madcatz was top dog. Everyone just thought Madcatz was the brand. They became the Kleenex or Q-tip of controllers, the brand name that became a catch-all for the whole concept. If gamers were sour on third-party, Madcatz was the one giving that off flavor. And you know what a kind of funny side effect of this was? You know what people don't hold on to and preserve for 20 plus years? Garbage Madcatz controllers. And guess what I needed to track down to make this video?
Garbage Madcatz controllers.
Whether because they legitimately broke or the owner thought, who the heck would want this? A lot of these devices have ended up right in the trash can over the years. And this self-destructing legacy made it seriously challenging to find anything Madcatz. People are far more likely to give Madcatz controllers away for nothing. I literally walked into a game store that had a bucket with a sticker that said free on it, filled with tons of rough-looking third-party products that other patrons had just left there, unloved and unwanted. Inside, this Madcatz GameCube controller. Yes, I guess it's obvious since I'm holding it that I brought home this store's refuse. This is what I have been reduced to. I mean, look at this thing.
Oh, poor controller.
Of course it wasn't functional.
It's like it's a.
Like, it is so bad.
So it's a little wobbly. Kind of just a bit too wobbly.
I also happened to find a social posting of a person nearby who was just giving away a Madcatz controller for GameCube. Free! Isn't that nice? Also broken. And that GameStop GameCube controller I showed off that was actually Madcatz, that one I paid real money for. And guess what? It doesn't work either. Put in fresh batteries, try to connect it, and it turns off right away. That's 3 GameCube Microcon controllers, all totally borked.
Trash can's getting a bit full.
I think we're gonna need a bigger trash can. Again, I have a slew of original, well-used GameCube controllers, and they all work. It's not the age that's the problem, it's this company. And folks, I tried to find something good. I attempted to locate something still working or in good condition from this era. But do you know what happens when you call up a video game store and ask one simple question? Hi. Video game store? Yes. Do you have any Madcatz products for sale?
Oh, shit. Well then.
That's a lot of swearing. They refused to admit that they had any Madcatz products, insulted that I'd even ask. Many informed me with great gusto that they denied their products whenever someone came in to sell old gear. One of the store owners literally told me since they first opened the store, nobody had ever asked them point blank for Madcatz anything. I was the first. So why do all these
That's
stores
wild.
hate Madcatz products? Well, to
'Cause
put it
they're
simply,
bad.
if they sold it, they just have to refund the customer the next day. It's a waste of time and money.
Exactly, they're just
So they just
bad.
avoid them altogether. Plus, me calling around for Madcatz products, that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Nobody else is going out of their way to find this stuff. You've seen how prevalent Madcatz was, and you've seen how notorious their products were. But some of you may be wondering, how did Madcatz keep getting away with selling shoddy controllers? And I'm gonna tell you. Basically, they didn't keep getting away with it. Part of what made their business model work during the PS2's generation was the relative simplicity of the controllers they were copying. But once the free-for-all that was the PS2 generation wound down, the party stopped for Madcatz. The 7th generation introduced far more complicated controllers than the previous gen. The Wii Remote
You couldn't make them on the cheap anymore because motion controllers were still very, very new and the technology for it was not easily accessible. I mean, you could, but you had to pay a steep price for it. Today, that's not even the case anymore. Anybody can do anything with gyroscopes. But anyway, they had motion controls. I think about that time during the PS4 era, they introduced the trackpad, which also they couldn't do, and haptic functionality I think was coming in at this point, or maybe I'm thinking about the 5. I'm not sure, but I mean anything's easy to replicate now.
alone, a wonder of innovation from the folks at Nintendo, filled with so many features and abilities. PlayStation 3's controller included motion controls, and the Xbox 360 utilized a wireless protocol that wasn't open source or standard across other devices. What did this mean for Madcatz? A whopping 3 years after the release of the Wii, they launched their first set of Wii controllers. And in an age dominated by the wireless controller, all of Madcat's Xbox 360 gamepads were wired. Even if they pulled an engineering marvel and got all their products out day one with the consoles complete with all the features, I don't think they'd have found much success. People kinda remembered their buffoonery from the years before and didn't really want to deal with any of their trash this time around. They were left with very little choice but to start a campaign to pivot their image. And 2008 kinda kicked off this new effort. Alex Veary, who was the global PR and communications manager for Madcatz, wrote an open letter to Mike Fahey of Kotaku, stating,
"We're not naive to what many gamers seem to think of Madcat's products. A lot has changed in recent years. No PR bull, no more talk, just play and see for yourself. All I ask is that you give us a chance to prove how much we've grown as a company."
It means the company knew for a fact that they were making
But they
terrible
knew.
products. And now they're saying they aren't doing that anymore. They admitted to the crime. That's a heck of a thing. If we're to believe that quote, at the very least, it appeared that Madcatz was seemingly making an effort to turn it around. So let's have a look at a couple of the controllers they were offering during this period of self-improvement. The Madcatz Xbox 360 Microcon.
Don't
Of
remember
course,
this one.
the moment I plugged it in to test its functions, it revealed its hidden demons. The left thumbstick, it was possessed. You don't even have to touch it. Leave the controller alone on a desk and it registers tons of jittery movement all over. Madcatz was also offering an Xbox 360 controller called the Arcade Game Stick at this time. This was specifically aimed at people playing retro games on their 360. You won't be playing Halo 3 with this. This design and all of its button placement makes it virtually unusable for any modern game design for the platform. I noticed it has a spinner, which I thought was kinda cool, so I loaded up Atari's Breakout. Immediately, Madcatz failed again. The game was completely unplayable. The input was stuttery and unresponsive. Upon closer inspection, I discovered that the spinner wasn't actually a real analog spinner. It was simply a D-pad in disguise. When you spin it, it's just tapping the directional pad left or right
Really fast.
inconsistently. I'd go so far as to call this a scam product for how badly they made this. By the way, Both of these controllers officially licensed by Xbox. This is the quality they were delivering on licensed merchandise. Clearly,
That's
Mad Catz
bullshit.
wasn't able to make quality controllers themselves, so they bought one company that could, Cytech, known for their flight stick controllers. They made good gear. I've used multiple controllers of theirs over the years, and they are built to last. See, Mad Catz didn't want you thinking you were buying a Mad Catz controller, now you were buying a Cytech controller. But Mad Catz would profit nonetheless. Mad Catz also became a game publisher for the Xbox 360 and published a very specific game to bundle with their new Cytech hardware. This is Damage Incorporated Pacific Squadron World War II. The game box proudly emblazoned with the unnerving Mad Catz logo, but the special controller that could be bundled with this game, the Cytech Aviator for the Xbox 360 and PC.
That was good.
This controller is close to 15 years old at the time of recording, and clearly it was used. Yet aside from some audible plastic creaking, this controller felt just as if it was new. Perfect button feel, no stick drifting, it all worked extremely well. As for the game itself, it's a pretty by-the-numbers World War II style flight sim. Got some extra bits here or there, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. Although seeing an animated Mad Catz logo appear before the game starts,
Harbinger.
yeah, that's pretty extraordinary. The flight stick really enhances the game. I was picking off targets incredibly far away with razor-thin precision. It's a very different experience from just playing a flight game with a regular controller. But what's important about this? It's proof that older controllers from this vintage can still work fine, as long as their original design was done with some level of care to quality. Just because many of the Mad Catz products we've seen are older and used, does not excuse them. Take it from a guy who's got a whole video series about bad gaming hardware.
I might be watching a couple of those.
Getting this many unfunctional controllers in a row isn't chance. It's Mad Catz. The
Yeah.
2010s was the decade.
And that's like I said a while ago, like there are companies that have made controllers that like were it's like been the odd one that have been bad, but then there's just this company made one good controller and the rest of them were bad. They went the opposite way with that. They said, "You see what everybody else is doing? Let's do the direct opposite of that."
Of bad decisions for Mad Catz. They made high investments in risky ventures that likely hurt them bad financially, like this Android-based microconsole, the Mad Catz Mojo. The
I don't
Mojo
even
launched in
remember
December
this.
2013, and I can tell you from experience, no one cared. Lots of companies are making variations of these, and nothing Mad Catz did really stood out against the competition. So what did they do to try and prop up sales? Other than slashing the price by $50?
God
Believe it or
damn.
not, they actually teamed up with another failing tiny gaming box.
Wow.
In 2014, when Ouya was struggling to sell their little game console to people, they launched their Ouya Everywhere initiative. The idea was to drop their Ouya game store on other companies' Android devices. Now that Ouya Funk could stink up another product they didn't make, Mad Catz leapt at the opportunity. I have
Wow.
no idea what they were thinking. I mean,
Why?
the Ouya was $99 compared to Mojo's $199. Why did they think anyone would spend twice the price on their box to access the Ouya game store? It makes no sense. But when it came to stupidly pricing things, oh, Mad Catz was rolling in dumb. Check this out. It's called the Lynx 9,
Oh.
and it's a portable, transforming controller for Android devices and PC. And it retailed for 300 American.
What? Nobody would buy this. Nobody would fucking buy this shit. $300 for a fucking controller?
dollars. 300.
It better suck and fuck me for $300.
That's the same price as the PlayStation 4 Slim the year after. For an Android controller? What? The website boasted that you no longer need a gaming console to get an authentic gaming experience.
Yes, you do.
Well, I hope so, because you could no longer afford one after buying this thing. Cheaper controller options obviously existed, and even if there were gamers out there who wanted to dabble with mobile gaming and were interested in the Lynx 9, were they $300 interested? No!
No.
I think not! As ill-conceived as these products were, they were not the worst move Madcatz made in the 2010s. That honor belongs to two words: Rock Band. The rhythm guitar game craze was started in 2005 by Guitar Hero.
this.
It was profitable for many, but one company missed the boat on sharing its success from the very start. According to what Madcatz president and CEO Darren Richardson told Kotaku's Brian Crescenti
There were so many rip-off Guitar Hero peripherals. Jesus Christ, that was like half their market.
in 2010, Madcatz was supposed to be involved with the original Guitar Hero.
I also didn't think that, I don't think that they were backwards compatible. Like, I think some of their stuff was not backwards compatible, so it was just garbage. It was landfill.
In 2005.
Guitar Hero was a game that we were actually involved with early on and pulled out because of a lawsuit with Konami. We were doing the Xbox SKU, and that's why there was only a PlayStation 2 launch.
This also implies that the original Guitar Hero was supposed to be on Xbox, either instead of or as well as PS2, which is further validated with this quote from Xbox's Phil Spencer. In 2015 on IGN, Spencer revealed that Xbox had been offered either Guitar Hero or at least the game that became Guitar Hero.
I've told the story a few times about passing on the original Guitar Hero.
They're great.
So obviously that's a decision I regret, given what that turned into.
But that Madcatz CEO quote, where he says they backed out of Guitar Hero because of a lawsuit with Konami? In July 2005, Madcatz was sued by them for their publishing of a dance rhythm game called MC Groove's Dance Craze for GameCube. Konami, being the Dance Dance Revolution company, they felt MC Grooves was infringing on their held patents. This is probably the lawsuit he's talking about.
Kind of
a lawsuit, by the way,
I can see
in which
that.
Red Octane, publisher of Guitar Hero, was also a defendant. Small world, huh? There is a very real chance that Madcatz was worried that they'd have another lawsuit on their hands if they made these guitar controllers, because Konami already had a game called Guitar Freaks that looked almost identical in concept. But for whatever their reason, Madcatz paid the tidy sum of $300,000 to back out of their Guitar Hero deal. You heard me. Madcatz not only walked away from a deal that would have made them tons of sales, but they also paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for the privilege. That's freaking crazy. It might
That
well
is
be
really
one of the
fucking
biggest
wild.
misses of all time in the video game industry. So when Rock
company
Band
that
comes
keeps
around, they
failing.
jumped in immediately. Not gonna be left behind a second time. No siree. They got in when it was hot, and Madcatz sales went through the roof selling plastic musical instruments. Not as much as they could have made at the start, but hey, anything was better than nothing.
Yep. Better late than
Hey
never.
kid, you want a plastic guitar controller?
Ew.
Unfortunately, 2 years in, no one was buying those expensive games and guitar bundles anymore. So in 2010, Harmonix publisher MTV Games officially dropped plastic peripheral support for the series. Who did they get to replace them? Madcatz! They were probably so stoked. I guarantee they thought now that they were the top rock band kitten, the money was just gonna come pouring in.
Plastic guitar controllers for everybody!
This was a pretty big mistake. Had they been paying attention, they'd have known existing players already had controllers and not enough new players were buying into the hardware. In October 2010, we got the brand new Rock Band 3, with Madcatz at the helm of the controller production, which actually was reduced for this title since they didn't bundle the game with guitars anymore. But you could get a game bundle with the newly added Rock Band keyboard. Yup, they included a bunch of brand new gameplay features to try and reinvigorate the brand. This here keyboard, or keytar I guess, was one of them.
Hey kid, you want a plastic keyboard you hold like a guitar?
I don't know how successful Rock Band 3 was for Mad Catz' bottom line, but as a whole, the game bombed. Sales were on a steady downward trend. The general gaming public was feeling burnt out with the whole rhythm genre. After re-releasing the game a year later with new guitar bundles, which sold worse than the first release, Harmonix put Rock Band to bed. It looked like the fast-paced ride of the plastic guitar trend officially came to a grinding halt. And where did this leave Mad Catz? Well, not in a good position. Failed products and investments with diminishing returns were starting to catch up with the company. Time passed, and the game industry evolved.
Hey, kid! Yeah, you! Oh, don't run away! Buy my plastic guitar controllers!
Nope. They did too much with not enough money coming back. See, quality over quantity every fucking time. That's why the saying exists, quality over quantity. Because at least if you make the quality, people are going to actually want it. And actually, if you have a quantity issue, that makes the products more sought after.
Mad Catz needs to eat!
No, you don't.
To say they were struggling would have been an understatement. It was at this time that a newly independent game developer was looking to resurrect a dead franchise. In a move that could only be described as pure extreme desperation, at the beginning of 2015, it was announced that Harmonix was bringing Rock Band back, and they invited their old pals Mad Catz along for the trip. However, Mad Catz wouldn't just be making the peripherals. This time around, they were going deep, co-publishing the game along with Harmonix. They invested big. They were putting everything into this,
Yeah, they were
betting
putting
it
all
all
their
on
eggs
the
in one
new
basket.
Rock Band, a comeback tour for the ages. I don't want to criticize Mad Catz' decision in taking part in this, but I just have to. They were huffing.
They have diminished any amount of good faith that they had with any of their customers. I'm going to be completely honest. They did no favors for themselves. And people had been burned too many times, simply put. They were done.
Catnip if they thought this was a good idea. Yes, they attempted to make the game more appealing by enabling old instruments from the past to work with a special adapter. However, it had been 5 long years since the last entry. The consoles the last game launched on had been replaced. No one thought the series was coming back. So when gamers either just wanted more space in their living room, or they literally were trading in their older consoles for a new Xbox One or PlayStation 4, they weren't keeping these clunky musical
Yeah.
instruments. These
We were getting
things
rid of it.
take up a lot of space. Controllers for both Rock Band and Guitar Hero flooded the secondhand gaming market, and stores stopped taking them. They wouldn't sell, and they'd rob valuable shelf space from things that would. I actually know some video game store owners, and you know what they told people who tried to sell them their old instruments at this time? Get lost!
Yeah.
Throw them in the trash! That's right. They were valueless and obsolete.
And
Then
trash.
Rock Band 4 comes around, and they expect these same burnt people to dish out hundreds to reinvest in the series?
Nobody's
Whoa.
going to do that.
That's a hard sell. And for argument's
hard
sake,
sell.
let's say someone shoved their old instruments in a closet and forgot about them for half a decade. For this to be helpful, they need to have stayed in the same console family. So if they had Rock Band controllers on PlayStation 3, they'd only work on the PS4 and not
Yeah.
Xbox One. But boy, the Xbox One sales, especially by 2015 when this game came out, were pitifully low. The pool of Xbox
Yeah.
One gamers who also had old 360 instruments,
It also is true that, you know, as far as the pull between Sony and Xbox, Sony's pulling ahead because they just have more powerful hardware. It plays games at a higher frame rate for like it's the performance console. You want the whatever PlayStation is selling. But I am in neither camp anymore because I'm just PC now. So I would shill for Sony, but nah, I'm going PC all the way.
probably insanely tiny. A huge majority of them moved over to the PS4 after the Xbox 360, so even if they had prior controllers, they couldn't get them to work on their current system. And on top of that, an entire platform was cut out from Rock Band 4. Nintendo's Wii U didn't get a taste of this one. Wii Rock Band controllers had no option to be used at all. As for this keytar piano thing, it was useless across each platform. They removed it from the next installment of the franchise. Some folks who liked this thing might not have been so happy about that. I really don't think they thought this through. The player base was gone.
Yeah,
the novelty
just non-existent.
wore off. But despite all these huge glaring red flags, the game came out in October 2015. And as anyone could have predicted at the time, besides Madcatz, I suppose, it flopped hard. And then, less than 2 years later, Madcatz filed for bankruptcy.
Thank God.
The big Rock Band 4 bet failed. A handful of executives resigned. They had massive staff layoffs, their stock price plummeted, and it got so bad that the only option was liquidation. And there it is. The entire legacy of Madcatz ended on one epically bad investment that seemed to be made in an effort to right the wrong they committed so many years earlier.
And
the
it
idea
failed.
of third-party controllers, though, lives on pretty strong today. More companies than ever before are producing not only controllers for PC and modern consoles, but also replacement components and controllers for retro systems. The increase of more users in the game space has generated a stability for third party that simply did not exist during Madcatz's rise during the 2000s.
And the third-party controllers now are way better with how their build quality is compared to what they were. Like, I would actually trust some of these and use them, but Steam has what they will and won't support. And some controllers are not recognized.
Companies like Retro Fighters regularly improve upon designs from the past or create all new ones, offering features like modern wireless connectivity methods or enhanced features that go well beyond original hardware. This stuff is so good that I'd use it over original controllers. They are extremely well made, and from what I've experienced at least, are likely to last a good long while.
And you can tell by just looking at that controller what plastic it is made out of. You can tell just by looking at it what that thing is going to feel like, and that looks like really, really good plastic that they're using. So I might actually look into Retro Fighters. Actually, let me grab. I don't have a pen. Oh no, my marker's on the floor. I will write down Retro Fighters later.
And they're not alone. 8-Bit Do has also had an impact in the scene. Hori is still going strong, making lots of great gear too. Many others are taking part in a revitalization of what it means to be a third-party manufacturer. One thing all these companies have in common is a central focus: quality, an aspect that Madcatz didn't share. And although the Madcatz of these controllers is long gone, the story of Madcatz didn't actually end with bankruptcy. In January 2018, CNET reported that a holding company composed of people who had worked for the company's Chinese factories had bought up the Madcatz assets and were resurrecting the brand. And they're still around, focusing on PC gaming peripherals. I don't have any experience with them, but I'm cool. I think I got my Madcatz fill with this video. Maybe this new Madcatz will turn the brand around and make something out of it.
You gotta go naked.
Yes!
Or maybe they won't. But for me, they'll never be the real horror show of the original company.
Yeah, no.
The Madcatz of old is a relic. Finding anything of them to this day is as rare as finding lost treasure, but it's not treasure.
As Jack Black would say, rare as a Stradivarius.
It's the stuff nobody wanted at the time and nobody needs now. An entire legacy burned up into ashes. For a company
Rightly
that
so,
focused
though.
on quantity and cheapness, sometimes legacies like that are best forgotten. You may find yourself in a retro video game store, maybe at a garage sale, a flea market, a pawn shop, or a thrift store, and you may find this ancient evil laying in wait for an unknowing gamer. But don't be fooled into thinking you found a deal. Learn from what I've shown you. Don't let this diabolical brand interact with your systems or the ones you love. Do as all gamers should do.
Throw them in the trash.
Fear the Madcatz.
The Scarlet Scratch. And that was Rerez's Mad Cat controller review and my subsequent ever-enduring nightmare. That was excellent. I actually liked that video a lot, and it actually took a lot longer to get through than I thought it would. This video is like an hour and 12 minutes, and I am over here at like an hour and 50. So I'm actually gonna stop this now because this thing is just my computer's throwing issues at me, and I probably need to change the bit rate. But you know that's something I'll handle later. I'm not gonna mess with settings now. I'm just gonna go ahead and end the live stream. Thank you guys for watching. Ugh. Yep, sorry, that was me. All right, thank you guys for watching. As always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Share my videos around. Watch some more videos on my channel. I've got quite a few of them, over 140 in fact, and several live streams. I'm also affiliated with Poggers, so go ahead and check out their store. You can use code RAVEN12 for 10% off any order and all of their products. And I try them myself. I drink them at least once a day. I do the sleep blend and the energy blend. So those both work out very well. I triple scoop, so I get 300 milligrams of caffeine. It's 100 milligrams of caffeine per scoop, and every tub gives you 30 drinks. So you're actually getting a deal. So thank you guys for watching. As always, love you all.